Welcome everyone to an interview with one of my favorite traders here, Limitless Trading, aka Daniel. Daniel, it is such an honor having you here. And let's just start off with you giving a quick introduction to your history of stock trading, options trading, and who you are, what your service is about before we get into any in-depth questions. So go ahead, my friend.
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. So yeah, just to get into it, I've been trading for pretty much 9 years now. Got into it pretty much as I would say like everyone else. Got into it because for the most part, I didn't really want to get a job out of college, and I started trading like pretty much when I got into college, just as something to do mainly. I remember my first trade, I think I made like $50 on it, and I was pretty excited about it because you didn't really have to do anything, just had to buy and sell. So that was something that kind of really took it off. And I think the name I traded was actually XLE. I was trading energy way back when, and from that day it's just been something that I completely fell in love with, and one of the main things that I'm actually really good at, and I can proudly say that. And yeah, started a service about 2-3 years ago now, and the main thing is just teaching individuals that want to learn how to trade a pretty simple and straightforward approach. I mean, I don't use any crazy indicators. The only indicator that I really have on my chart is VWAP. I just trade price action, volume, momentum, those three things. And I think if you can focus on those three things, you're definitely going to be able to be successful as long as you read it correctly. But yeah, it's been one hell of a journey the last 9 years. I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything. And it's been a journey more so of personal development than anything. But if you stick to it and you don't quit, which I've wanted to quit 3-4 times, I mean, the first 4 years of my trading journey was just straight red. I was working as a bartender at the time when I was in college, and just making it by, really trying to figure out what I was going to do. Was going to be heading into finance at some point, but I thought I'd give trading a shot out of college and never looked back. So yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome, man. Now I'm gonna go off of something you said here where you wanted to quit a few times. Now, obviously, this was probably before you found your trading method and you found your stride in trading. Did you learn from any outside sources such as YouTube videos, books, etc., or did you kind of create your own trading strategy with different indicators? You said you only use a single indicator, which is your VWAP on your charts, but obviously volume and levels and price action, those are indicators themselves. And I always tell my members, there is no right way to trade. There is only, if you can find several indicators, I say 3 in total, that all come into confluence with a single point, that creates a high risk to reward ratio pivot point that you can either enter or have as your stop loss. Now, it seems that you have found your own 3 indicators to create such a trading strategy. Did you find those through trading with trial and error along the way? Did you learn from someone else? And at what point did you say, okay, this trading strategy that I'm using now is viable enough that I can stay consistent with it for the next how many ever years and profit off of it? What was that whole journey for you? So I know it's a loaded question, but I figured I'd just throw everything in there so you can give me a full story.
Yeah, for sure. So I say let's just go from day one. So the first thing, I read a couple of books, mainly by Mark Douglas, and it wasn't necessarily anything in terms of the actual trading. It was more so kind of nailing down my psychology, really. But when I first started trading, I did have a book, and I actually think I have it somewhere, but it's not around me. It was reading charts, reading candlesticks, and within that book, they talked a lot about breakouts. So, and breakouts for me, I like them a lot because the strategy that I use, momentum plays a big part in it, and momentum can die off at any point, right? So if I can get in a breakout, get 20, 30, 40, 50% on the position, take my profit, get out, look for the next one, right? That's how I like to trade. It's day to day. Normally I don't hold things overnight. It's just day to day. So breakouts kind of became the main thing. And it took me a while, like the first 2 years, I did have indicators. I had the RSI, I had the MACD, I had the VWAP, I had multiple moving averages, and nothing really, I couldn't find something that worked well, because I would read the chart and see something, and then I would read the MACD and see something else, and I would read the RSI and see something else. So it wasn't ever, I could never really trust any of it. So I kind of decided to get rid of all the indicators. This was, I think the second year after, the first year after blowing up an account. Second year, I was like, okay, we got to do something different. So the second year, I started to kind of remove most of the indicators. Instead of, I did have the 21 EMA on my chart just to follow the trend, and that was working well because it gave me a good idea of, how to play strength mainly, and what names are trending above, what names are trending lower, what kind of market are we in. If we're trading above the 21 EMA, look for breakouts, right? If we're trading below it, for the most part, look for breakdowns. That also didn't work that well. So, and I knew there was something more that I had to look into. And then I kind of went on this journey of understanding how the markets move, and how volume played a big part in that, and how price action played a big part in that. So for my third and fourth year, when it finally clicked, the third year, I started really focusing on consolidations. And, I noticed, and I know that John Carter trader, I saw something about him and mainly playing breakouts. So I'd say that was like one of the outside sources that kind of led me to the path that I am on right now. And he always just focused on consolidation breakouts. And I liked that idea, because when you have a named pin in a range, it breaks out of that range, you're going to see an explosive move. So I really tried to focus on those, and was focusing on consolidation breakouts for probably like 6 months to a year, and definitely found some pretty decent consistency with that. And then the fourth year comes along, and the third year I was able to grow an account, but my mindset was lacking confidence, and my mindset was lacking, belief in the system. And honestly, it was lacking maturity in trading. So the fourth year was kind of, I really, after the third blow up in my account, I really wanted to just give it up. It felt like it was, I didn't have it on lock. I was bleeding money at that point. I took an account and then blew it all up, right? Mainly due to greed. But it was something that I just couldn't wrap my mind around quitting. Like that's something that I can't do. So the fourth year was when I really kind of looked myself in the mirror and was like, okay, this is something that I have to do, and figure out a way to do it. So on that fourth year, it became, the three main focus became volume, high volumes on the breakouts, looking for news on breakouts, and looking for names that are showing relative strength or relative weakness compared to the overall market. And that was something that I realized in the third year, that a lot of these names that are breaking out, they're showing a lot more strength than the other names in the sector compared to the overall market, right? They have a reason to move. They have some sort of a catalyst. And on those moves, we have above average volume in every single one of them. So those three things was what really changed the game for me. But it was more so the mindset. And it was the mindset of getting rid of trying to make money every day. And it became the mindset of stick to your plan, let the setup tell you when to take a trade, and let your setup tell you when to not take a trade. And I think that right there was probably the biggest game changer in it all, because it removed the money making mindset away from my trading and made me stick to a process day in and day out that I could come back to, refer to, refine it, learn from it, and then do it again the next day. So it became this very repetitive kind of robotic like behavior for 1 to 2 years. And in that 1 to 2 years, I mean, things just took off. And I realized on the days that I do have a red trade, I should say some of the days that I have a red trade, I'm not so much thinking about the process. So it's like always a good reminder to go back to the process, look at your setup, look at your system, right? Follow that day in and day out. And yeah, you're going to have a red day within, you know, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but on average, you're going to be green, right? As long as you stay true to it. So it definitely took a lot. There was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of back testing. I mean, every single day I probably spent, you know, an hour and a half to 2 hours recapping the day, what I could have done differently. And trading, you know, in that period of time was constantly on my mind. It was something that I couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake the itch. And it was something that I knew I wanted to do, but there had to be changes. And I think that change of, you know, referring to your system and only letting your system make the decisions for you was when, you know, profitability actually happened. But for people that are newer, it's difficult because you may not have a system, and you may not know what to do. So it is going to take time, and like I said, it's a lot of trial and error. But if you spend the time after hours, right, that's what's really going to kind of change the game for you, I feel.
Now, I'm going to go off of a few things you said here. First and foremost, let's backtrack to when you said belief in your system. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like during year 3, you've had your system locked in. However, it wasn't until year 4 that you escaped the emotional barrier of not letting your system work, aka probably, and I'm just saying what I have experienced until I perfected my emotions with my systems. So probably getting faked out of a play and not respecting your true stop loss that might have not even hit, or 2, taking baby profits right when the breakout or breakdown happens instead of holding for the true move that your game plan says. Now, me personally, it's a little bit easier when members ask, oh, how do you get rid of that emotional aspect, yada yada. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I'm going to be completely transparent. Having a service where you have passive income coming in and knowing you do have a significant paycheck coming in at the end of the week helped me escape from, okay, well, if I lose, at least I'll know I stuck to my plan and I have more capital to put in later if it doesn't work, yada yada. Now, for the average folks, what do you say to them that, or what advice can you give them that'll help them escape this emotional barrier if they don't have, let's say, a large influx of income coming in from either their work or other income sources, all that good stuff? How can they take out that emotional aspect that's preventing them from sticking to their plan that I'm sure works if they've been trading long enough? It's just, oh my, am I gonna stick to my original price target up above, or should I just exit now that I'm down 5% instead of waiting for my stop loss that's all the way down at maybe minus 20, minus 30%? What do you say to those people, and how can they escape this barrier of the emotions?
So I think the best way around it is to not look at your P&L. Okay. And I know that sounds vague, and I know people have probably said it before, but if you shut out your P&L and you don't look at it, like, who gives a shit what the P&L says? Look at the chart, because your P&L is just ultimately all it is, just a number on the screen. That's it. So, and I know it's very difficult to view it as such, right? Let me actually backtrack a little bit. If you're trading, and I think the best case for someone just learning how to trade is to continue to work at your 9 to 5, right? Work at your 9 to 5, have and know you have a steady income coming in, and then look to trade. And for those that are trying to get out of their 9 to 5 to just solely trade, the biggest thing is, and like, let's say, like you said, you have a system that, has been developed, but you're kind of trapped in this mindset of always thinking about every dollar that, you see on your screen. You have to treat it as, you know, for the most part, you have to treat trading as a business, and you yourself have to be robotic as possible. And it's very difficult to do so, but really kind of avoiding your P&L and just trading your plan, you're going to surpass everybody else in terms of a learning curve because you're doing that. It's so hard to do that, to just put your trade on, not look at your P&L, take your profit, whether it's at a level or whether you take profit at, at a certain percent, whatever it is, it has to be up to you. But the more you kind of get down, and do that hard work, the profit is going to come. And, it may be 3 months of where you're really battling yourself mentally and, you're having trouble doing that, but it gets easier in time. Like for me, my biggest thing when I first started trading out, and I guess it goes back to not believing in my system. My biggest thing was revenge trading. If I took a trade, and this goes back to the money makings mindset. If I took a trade that lost, I'd be so worried about that loss because I wanted to get it back, because I wanted to grow the account. I would make a random trade looking to get back the loss and then, dig myself deeper. For the most part, sometimes I would actually reclaim the loss, but what that does, that teaches you bad habits, so you continue to do it. So that was the biggest thing for me, and it took, probably took 2 years once I figured that out, of constantly telling myself to not do it because I'd feel like I would want to, and sometimes I would give in, and then lo and behold, I'd take another loss. But it took me about 2 years of constantly reminding myself and constantly fighting that urge to not revenge trade that, helped me get to where I am today. But it was something that I had to keep in mind every single day. Whenever I had a loss, it was, let's get this back. And then I would battle myself, back and forth on whether to revenge trade or not. And, if you're having the trouble of getting into a trade and not sticking to your system, you have to battle yourself every single day. And that has to be something that you push for and strive for every single day. You don't have to get, 10% better every single day, but if you can get 1% better and do something better than you did the day before every single day, in a year or 2 years, you're going to be a completely unrecognizable, you're not going to be recognizable. You're going to be a completely different trader. And that's what you have to do. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be extremely difficult. But if you make yourself do the things that you need to do and stop giving in to these little impulses, discipline, right? That's where growth happens. So I'd say give it time, be patient with yourself, but make sure you work on, breaking your bad habits every single day.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize, that options trading does take time. I feel like a lot of new traders go into the market thinking that option trading is their hidden treasure case of riches, that they'll escape their 9 to 5 and all that good stuff. A lot of people don't realize that trading itself is a job. And with any job, you do take that investment into either your education or training or whatever job you do. Your start off is going to be very slow until you build your skills, you build your experience in order to get a higher income. That's why it's important to realize that trading is all about consistency within your plan. And I believe that's exactly what you're trying to get at. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like, people ask me all the time, like, how can I become a full-time trader? I've only been trading for, 3 to 6 months. My account's at XYZ. How do I get there? Or I want to get there, in a month or 2 months. And it's like, you have to realize, like, people go to school For, college, they go to school for 6, 7 years, to become a high professional, to get a high professional paying job. And it's like, how do you expect to come into the markets, one of the most difficult things to do, and expect to crush it in a year or 2 years? There's so much growth that has to happen. Maybe you're a rarity, right? Maybe you can do it within a year or a year and a half. But for the most part, it's going to take you at least 3 years or 10,000 hours sitting in front of the screen to really get good at something. So trading takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of pain, and it's something that is going to be very difficult because you are going to lose money. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle, and that's why I struggled, because I couldn't accept the fact of losing money. But when I disassociated money to being successful, right? If I placed a trade, but I followed my plan, did everything normal, and I still took a loss on it, whatever, it doesn't matter, because there's going to be another trade, and the likelihood of me making money on that trade is high. Like today, for example, I took a SPY trade, and was looking for a bounce. Everything was followed perfectly. Stopped out. There's a 22% loss at the lows. Stopped out of it. Did end up going 100%, so I'm kind of kicking myself for it, but whatever. But took the trade, stopped out of it. Okay, lost some coin, and then another trade, QQQ, came along, was able to take it and made most of it back. Still ended slightly red on the day, but just like that, it's like you're going to take a trade, and if everything could be perfect on it, but you're going to lose. And that's something that newer traders have to get used to, right? Just because you have red on your screen or red on your P&L doesn't mean you did something wrong, right? You're gonna lose no matter what. And I think that is probably one of the hardest things to kind of realize and understand. And it takes time to get over that. And it takes time to get good at something, and especially be an expert at something. And you don't have to, all it takes is one setup, right, to be successful. You don't need 10 or 20 setups. You just need one that you can find, maybe 3 times a week, 4 times a week. If you can find it every single day, great, right? But you don't need a ton of fancy indicators. You just need one setup, and it takes time to find that one setup. And then once you find that setup, you're going to go through a whole growth process of psychology, and really look inside yourself and figure yourself out, get rid of your demons, and then profitability happens, right? So yeah, it just give it time. It's the biggest thing.
100%. 100%, brother. Now, something I want to go off of exactly what you're talking about, where it does take time. I personally started trading when I was 22 years old. Right now, I'm 26. The thing that I noticed within the market, why you have to take time, is that market behavior is constantly changing every 2 months, I want to say. And it's not until you do spend those countless hours during intraday where you read price action and you develop a sense of, oh, I've seen this type of price action, this type of setup, this type of chart pattern with the volume, with the everything together. I've seen this before. I know how this is going to play out. And a lot of people don't realize that's where true trading knowledge comes from. You can go online to any YouTube, read any book, they'll tell you the perfect trading strategy. But the issue is you are not present as long as they have been in the market to identify that, oh, this strategy has a high probability of working today, versus, oh, wait, volume looks a little bit off on this 15-minute candle. Volume looks a little bit off on this 5-minute. Maybe I'll stay out, give it a bit of time. Market's acting a little bit weird. Maybe I'll sit out for another 2 hours. Identify price action then. It's not until people go into the market and expose themselves to such high quantity of hours in front of price action that they can identify this market behavioral shift. Now, I want to go off of something with this market behavioral shift. Now, in 2020 and 2021, the theme was breakouts, breakdowns, really easy, especially the upside. However, during this past year, I noticed that breakouts are getting faked out more. They're taking stocks to levels that they know people will go ahead and go long on, and they'll reverse the play instantly. So personally, what I have done lately is shift my entries towards support retest instead of that breakout. And not necessarily the retest of the breakout. I'll go to the support of the next nearest support down below the breakout before I go long. For example, let me go ahead and move this over. Yesterday, we played longs off of the break of the SPY bullish channel here. And towards the end of the day, we identified, hey, there has to be some sort of retest in order for continuation to occur, right? So what we did today was, let's take off that. What we did today was exactly that. We went ahead and longed the first bounce of the day. I went ahead and took another SPY long at the second bounce of the day. And the third bounce, since it wasn't close to the bullish channel retest, I simply switched over to the 5-minute, took a long here as well, and they all worked. Now, is there something that you have done to change your trading strategy during this past year to account for price action that we've seen so far over the past few months? Or has your trading strategy stayed consistent? And if it has stayed consistent, how has your profits changed, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so let's do 2020 and 2023. 2022, or sorry, 2022, 2023. At the start of 2022, I was still in the mindset of breakouts. Everything's breaking out. And in 2020 and 2021, the breakouts were so easy that like you didn't even really have to think more about it. If a name was breaking out over a certain level, buy calls, you're most likely going to get paid on them. It was probably the easiest market that I've ever seen. And then 2022 happens and I'm still in that mindset. So like the first week of 2022 was a big adjustment. And I was like, okay, you know, things have changed. The sentiment has changed. We're going to be looking for fades. We're going to be looking for breakdowns. We're going to be looking to fade the pops as they come. So that was the biggest thing for me. And it took some time to adjust to that. And because for the most part, I don't like to be first on, like if I'm calling a top, I want to be proven that the top is in. So I'll give it a little bit of time. I'll be patient. I'll view price action for a couple of days, maybe a week, and see how things are. But at the start of 2022, my process goes from breakouts to looking for false breakouts and playing the price action to the downside. So it was a big shift from looking for breakouts to playing false breakouts, because false breakouts, that was mostly what was going on. Price would suck into the bulls, and then they would get fade. They would get crushed, and then it would fade for the rest of the day. So that was kind of the move for most of 2022. And then when 2023 happened, like there were some days where we had breakouts in 2020, but for the most part they were pretty short-lived, and definitely trickier price action. The biggest thing in 2022, the biggest thing that I learned, again, is to be patient. Like that was 2022 was the biggest teacher in being patient that I ever had, because I would be, I'd be fairly aggressive, and some days were good, some days were bad ultimately. But once I started really being patient and waited for all the stars to align for the most part on the trades, then I took it, and then my my win rate percent skyrocketed. So 2022 was definitely, it was a gift, I really have to say, because it taught me a lot, and really made me a better trader. But when 2023, rolled around, for the most part, it's all been breakouts. You do have to be patient. I mean, we had that month in like March to, I think it was the end of May, when we finally broke out of that consolidation. But for the most part, in 2023, I'm trading the same way that I was trading in 2020 and 2021. but I'm taking the lessons from 2022 of being more patient and applying that to this year. And it's been great. I mean, 2023 has been solid. Being more patient has really allowed me to be more calm in trades, get more money out of the trades, let the trades do the work. And I feel a lot more comfortable. And it's been great. There's some trades where instead I look for breakouts, I'll look for a back test and a hold, and then a confirmation just to really have confirmation of the move. But for me to play breakouts in 2020, I didn't need to have above average volume. I didn't really need to have a ton of momentum. I didn't necessarily need to have a catalyst behind it. But in 2023, those are the things that I'm looking for. Having the catalyst, having the volume, having the momentum. If I don't have that in this market environment, the likelihood of me playing a breakout is pretty low. When comparing it to 2020, it was like you could just buy the breakout no matter what, and most likely you'll get paid.
Now,
So
when you say catalyst, sorry to interrupt you. When you say
go for it.
catalyst, are you talking about having an aspect of fundamental analysis along with your technical analysis, or are we talking about something different here?
Yeah, just some sort of news for the day. That'll help the name break out. For the most part, I do like pretty aggressive upgrades. So I'll look for upgrades or PT raises or any sort of news on a name that will benefit the stock price and kind of fit my narrative. So I don't know if there was one today. There was one today, Netflix. So like Netflix this morning was a top candidate for longs over 425 this morning.
Before you go on, would you like to share your screen to have a better visualization for members?
Yeah, let's do this here.
Let me go ahead and stop sharing mine.
Okay. Oh, is there a chance that you could enable it?
Yeah, there we go. I just gave you permission.
Okay, perfect. All right. Boom. Okay, perfect. Can you see it, Netflix? Yeah. All right. So yeah, Netflix this morning. We gap up. We're showing relative strength, right? The overall market is gapping down. Netflix is green. I think we're up like 1.4%. So 425. Reason why I'm looking at 425, psychological spot, halfway point of 420, 430, always going to be significant. And we had a catalyst. There was an upgrade on it. And this is a trade that, for the most part, kind of has all the stars aligned. We have a catalyst. We have the relative strength. The only thing for me to take this trade that we didn't get this morning is a pullback on profit taking to show me where I'm going to put my risk. So there really wasn't any sort of a pullback. This thing just opened up and ripped. So I didn't take this trade actually, but this is something that I'll look for every single morning. Is a name that's showing relative strength or relative weakness that kind of aligns with the overall market. And the next step is, if we're gapping up, looking for that pullback, identifying the risk, taking the trade once that level cracks. So with Netflix, when it has news and you see relative strength, the only other thing you need most of the time is a market bounce, and we got the market bounce this morning. So this was a perfect candidate. If this sucker just pulled back, it would have been, I would have been all over it. But that's what I look for, and in 2023, that's what I really have to see for me to play a breakout, right? I have to see either a catalyst, relative strength, above average volume, momentum, right? Any of those things, that's what's going to get me into a trade. If I see a name that's approaching a pretty major level for a breakout, like Meta, for example, was one that we were looking at over like 288, but there wasn't any sort of a catalyst on it. There wasn't a ton of volume, right? As you can see, like comparing it to yesterday, there wasn't a ton of volume on it. We were coming up into 288, which has been a level of significance. And because of that, because of low momentum, because of the low volume, because it didn't really have a catalyst behind it, it wasn't something that I wanted to trade. Like Meta yesterday over 285, there was that PT raise on it, right? The one to like 360, I think. So pretty major catalyst for a move through 285. And I know you actually caught that one. And ended up rallying, hit 288, almost hit 290, right? And it had that catalyst behind it. So that's always something that I need to look for me to trade a breakout in 2023 when comparing it to 2020 or 2021, when you could just buy the breakout and be successful. This is kind of how I've changed the game in 2023.
Now, going back to that Netflix play you showed me, I noticed for today there was also a trend line breakout in pre-market where it started to push into the open. Now, let's say you did find your catalyst. You were waiting for profit taking. What prevented you from taking, for example, we could even say that, what is this, the 5-minute chart? We can say that the third or fourth candle there almost retested that trend line breakout. Why not go ahead and take your entry at that level / trend line breakout retest? So that the trend line I'm talking about is if you go ahead
It's
and
like right
create
here.
one. Yep.
Yeah. That's a good question. So for me, when I was first trading breakouts, I noticed a trend with a lot of the names that if there isn't really any sort of a pullback on a gap up, like no profit taking at the open, there was some pre-market, but I want to see it during regular trading hours. I want to see the retail buyers come into play. That a lot of the times it can produce a false breakout. What it sometimes does is it takes the lows out, fills the gap, and then sees the move. So I was really trying to be patient with it and see, okay, are we actually going to test this a couple more times at 425? Are we going to hold, a higher low after this test? Like, are we going to pull back and test it one more time and then move, which is what I always like to see. So for me, taking a trade like that on the back test of 425, because I really don't use the 1 minute. I mainly stick to the 5 minute. The 5 minute is the lowest time frame I'll go. I use the 5 and the 15. So for me to take a bounce, whether it's at a support, whatever it is, I need to see at least a higher low at the level. So Netflix broke 425. Our low here is like 424.60. But if it was able to see a pullback into 425 again and confirm that the buyers are here and buyers are present, then I would have gone long. I normally don't buy a back test just buying it as soon as the back test hits. For the most part, I've lost too many trades doing that, because in my opinion, it feels more like, I'm hoping it's going to bounce instead of like getting that confirmation. For me, the confirmation for a move higher would have been like ultimately over 430. At this point, I was already in 2 other trades, so I didn't take this one. But yeah, at 430 would have been more of a confirmation. And the reason being is because we do have that second pullback. It holds, it breaks, makes a higher high intraday and then kind of rallies. So, but yeah, usually when I don't see a pullback right at the open, I don't tend to trade it, just because the R&R there isn't something that I really want to look for, or it's not something that I like. And Netflix for me is always a pretty tricky one, because this thing does like to explode right at the open. And I think this was within the first minute. Yeah, first minute of the day. Now, if I was looking at the 1 minute here, this would have been, this 2-stage candle would have been pretty solid. But yeah, I was just looking at the 5.
Right. And I completely agree with your philosophy and your approach to this setup. Likewise, I personally wouldn't have caught the retest of the trend line breakout, because like you said, there is a gap down below, and obviously gaps do act somewhat as magnets here. So the main thing I'm trying to bring up here is that as traders, people do not understand, if you're a veteran trader, you are going to miss so many plays every single day. There's so many plays that I look back with 2020 hindsight and say, oh, well, I could have taken this retest. I could have done this. I could have done this. I could have done this. My personal experience with this is I have a very strict, once I start trimming, my stop loss gets moved to break even. And I will tell you right now, on about, I want to say 60% of my plays, that break even does hit, and then I see it continue to move higher. after retests its own individual levels that are obviously not tied to my personal premium entry. Now, I try to tell my members that you're going to experience this so many times throughout your trading career. So there is no need to FOMO or say, oh my God, this play is running now. Should I chase? Yada, yada. Is there something you have to say for those people that cannot accept that you will miss out on more plays than you bank on, and that is completely okay as a trader?
Yeah, I mean, today's a perfect example. Every single trade that I planned this morning for my pre-market plans, I missed. It was Netflix, it was coin, right over 70. That was within the first minute of the day, and then it was actually Meta as well. I was looking for a bounce off of 285. I missed every single one of those because they all happened within the first minute of the day. And with the gap down, granted, I was pretty bullish on the gap down, and I was looking for a bounce. We didn't necessarily have full confirmation of a move higher, so that's ultimately what I was looking for. But I missed all three of them, and it's like it's not a big deal, because there's opportunity in the market for the most part all day, and if not within the same day, the chances of a strong setup tomorrow are pretty high. And it took me a long time to get that into my brain. It did. And it kind of goes back to when I was revenge trading. It's like I'm revenge trading on lower tier setups when if I just wait, 2 hours or 3 hours or until the next day, I would have gotten back the loss that I had. And it's like there's opportunity every single day. There could be news tomorrow on an individual name that makes it, gap up and show a ton of strength and actually make a move, right? There's something that's what's so great about trading is there's always something around the corner, no matter what. There's always going to be opportunity. You just have to be patient and disciplined enough to wait for that opportunity and not kill yourself, kill your account before that move happens, right? Because there's always going to be one. Like SPY, I actually probably sold you the contracts this morning. you probably bought the ones that I sold. Like here, like this is the SPY trade that I took, looking for a bounce, broke the high, false breakout over high day, sold it under the lows, got picked up. Like I said, probably sold you the contracts there, and then it exploded, right? Okay, no biggie. Take the small loss. QQQ came along, took calls over 365 for that relative strength because the tech names are showing relative strength. Played QQQ over 365. Looked for about a point plus, got the point, moved on, right? I didn't know that trade was going to happen, but I'm not going to force another trade right after I take a loss because the chances of a name presenting a setup is high, and there's always going to be another one. There's always going to be another trade, no matter whether you know it or not, and you have to remind yourself that. So taking a loss in the market, especially if you have a proven, setup that gives you consistent returns, just be patient and wait for it because it is going to come.
Now, regarding this, personally, I'll be transparent. While I say there's plenty of opportunities in the market, like I talked about, once my break-even stop loss hits, sometimes or a good amount of the times, I do see that contract running higher. And even me with concentrating in the market nonstop for 4 years, almost every single day, I was present in the market at all hours. Even with me, where I see that more opportunities are going to arise later on, I will still find myself looking back at the stock. I have this thing where I'll just completely delist the stock, but even with that, I'll search the stock back up midday and still have a little bit of, God damn it. And this feeling for me is so strong to the point where I'll have, for example, 3 wins, 300% wins throughout the day. But just because I got faked out of that one play that I only got 20% off of, and now it's running over 300% profit, it gets to me to the point where I can't really enjoy my day. Now, again, this is something I'm personally working towards. I always tell my members, if you're not good at something, rather than waste your time and this, a lot of people might disagree with this, but rather than wasting your time trying to perfect these errors, just find a play style that works around them, so you don't have to over be too hard on yourself. Essentially have a version of indicator paralysis. Now, what's your methodology and your psychology that allowed you to escape that mindset? Because like I said, I'm still in the fighting FOMO mindset. Now, I don't act on it, but I will have these emotions running through me throughout the day that, again, prevent me from really enjoying my performance for the day. What's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, today, to be honest, with the SPY trade, I was for sure fighting FOMO. And the thing is, you're never gonna fully get rid of it. Like you're always gonna feel some sort of FOMO, or just like you're gonna kick yourself a little bit. Because I stopped out of this for a loss, and then this thing hits 100%, 40 minutes later, and it's like shit, you know. Um, and there's always gonna be some sort of FOMO, and today I had FOMO, and I was actually looking. I was liking the way that the market was looking. I was okay, maybe a potential re-entry, like for this high day break right here, looking for continuation. But that wasn't me really talking. It was more so of the FOMO. So I was like, okay, I'm feeling the FOMO. I know this analysis is probably not the best. Like I'm not seeing a ton of volume here, et cetera, et cetera. Like feel a little bit like momentum feels a little bit slow. It kind of feels drappy. And if I was to act on that emotion, I would have gotten crushed, right? So, I feel like you're always going to feel a little bit of it, but knowing that you're feeling it is the best thing, because sometimes, especially newer traders, they don't know they're feeling it and they don't know what that emotion is. And then they act on it and they get crushed, right? FOMO's, as you know, probably one of the most dangerous emotions to have. And I felt it today. But right now, do I care about it? Absolutely not. Like it happened. There's nothing I could do about it. Move on from it. It's what happened is done. And I mean, I do the same thing, right? Where I take profit and raise my stop to break even. That is something that I also do. And sometimes same thing, I get that stop and it ends up going to 100% plus. So, that does happen, and it sucks when it happens. But there's also other times where my stop gets hit and then the thing gets absolutely crushed and it's down 60, 70, 80%. So it's like that rule is there for a reason, right? Because the times that it bounces and continues higher, okay, whatever, that is going to happen. But there's also those days where your stop is taken and the thing gets absolutely slammed. And it's like, which one would you rather have? Would you rather get stopped out, for a win, for a green trade, for a base hit, or would you, decide to get rid of that stop and then give back all of your daily profit, right? And then by that point, you're definitely going to be kicking yourself even harder, and you're going to be telling yourself, I should have stuck with the stop. So, us as humans are always going to have those emotions. It's very, very difficult to be 100% robotic 100% of the time. It's almost impossible, right? Because you're never going to be 100% every single day. Something is going to happen, right? Something outside of trading is going to happen to you, and you're never going to be 100% every single day. And that's okay, and telling yourself that's okay is also really important, because I think, especially for me in trading, I'm extremely hard on myself, because I expect a lot out of myself. And that was something that actually, a member in my community kind of was like, dude, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, let yourself kind of work through it. And I think that's something that has benefited me a ton, and I'm actually extremely grateful for that advice. But I've always been that way. I've always been extremely difficult on myself. And I think if you're someone that also does that, ease up. And, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay, to have a position go to 100% when you followed your rule, right? It's whatever. There's always going to be another trade. Like tomorrow, there will 100% be another trade that we'll be able to take and most likely profit off of. So it's getting to that realization. It takes a lot of time, right? It took me 3 years, right? So it takes time to get to that realization. And when you do get to that realization, great, right? You're gonna understand, like, whatever this trade hit 100%, there's gonna be another one, right? Like, I'm not worried about it. Or if I take a loss, okay, whatever, this trade lost, there's gonna be another one. We'll get it back the next trade or the trade after that, right? And I mean, for full transparency, like 2 months ago, I probably had one of the worst weeks in terms of my percent win rate. I think I took 7 trades and lost 6 out of 7 of the trades. That was probably the worst I've ever done. And I don't know what the hell was going on. That was like during the consolidation back in, I think I could show it here, like back in May. Like during this phase. But I kept telling myself, look, if we keep the losses small, we keep the position size small, there's going to be opportunity and we will capitalize on the opportunity. And what happened? Boom, opportunity came, and, you know, for the most part, been crushing it since. So it's like I went through a really bad week, but I kept telling myself, look, we're going to get out of this. You know, we've been in this situation before, move through it, understand that there's going to be opportunities around the corner. You just have to be patient enough for them and stay disciplined until that day comes. And then, boom. So yeah.
Perfect. Well explained. So it seems that it all goes back to the topic of be present in the market long enough so you can identify that these things do occur and just accepting it over time.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Time in the market is going to be your biggest teacher. That's just, it's plain and simple. Like, experience in this business is the best teacher. Having losses is the best teacher, right? But experience and screen time, you can't beat it. There's really nothing that will teach you more than being present in front of the computer for, you know, from the market open to the market close every single day. There's nothing that'll teach you more than that.
Perfect. Now I'm going to ask you a little bit of a loaded question here. Like I was saying earlier on in this interview, I'm interviewing people that I do believe are 100% legit, are actual traders that have had experience and show it through their work. Now, I always tell people there's a clear distinction between being a trader and being a chartist. Now, do you mind if I go ahead and share my screen for this question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
So just stop share, yeah.
Okay. For example, let's take what happened on the 20th of June this month. We did have NVIDIA pushing up over a key level that I'm sure a lot of people were monitoring, that being the 437.5, 438, whatever. However, with an actual trader, they can zoom out, see that volume relative to the previous days is lower. And obviously on a breakout, this is not what you want to see. Now, me personally, I went ahead and noticed, oh, there's a bit of a bearish channel going here. Okay, first and foremost. Second of all, the moving averages, I'm not going to go into too much description of my play style because, again, this is an interview for you, but the moving averages on that push were not in a bullish formation yet. I do like to see the 50 MA on the 15-minute leading the charge with any type of bullish breakout. So I went ahead and alerted a short to my team. Now, when I alerted this short, mind you, we went in here. When I alerted this short on FinTwit, all I saw was people calling a breakout in NVIDIA, people posting flow for call flow to the upside, all that good stuff. And these are the same people that have a lot of traction on their posts, because newer traders don't understand that there's a difference between being a chartist and being a trader. And sure enough, right after we took this swing, and mind you, it's for the 30th, we took this last week, boom, we got our full price target of 400. Now, admittedly, I did not hold all the way. I took profits the next day, never got back in, all that good stuff. Now, again, like you see, I blurred out the names, but on this day, exactly when we went on this play, everyone was calling a breakout. All their trader friends, quote unquote trader friends, are agreeing with them, all that good stuff. And sure enough, we saw the true move. Now, you as an experienced trader, how can you distinguish or tell newer traders how to distinguish between a chartist and a trader? Is there any difference in your eyes? Or I'll let you answer that.
It's a good question. Truthfully, I think that the ones that talk less, say less, and yeah, the ones that talk less, say less, and ultimately do less and stop trying to get their opinion validated by other people, those are the ones to believe in. Because FinTwit is a weird place right now. I haven't been very active within my main Twitter. And it's because I'm seeing a lot of BS, to be honest with you. I've been seeing a lot of people pumping small options, right? Like a $10 option. I've been seeing a lot of that. I've been seeing a lot of people trying to call tops, right? And it's funny because, you know, everyone's super quick to call a top, but you don't see anyone ever calling bottoms. So that's something. And yeah, it's just the ones that say less and do less. I trust in their opinion, and the ones that are real, you know, the ones that aren't trying to fake a facade or, you know, it's a good question and it's definitely hard to answer, but for the people that let the performance speak for themselves, you know, that don't need to get their opinion validated, right, and believe what they see, those people know that they're going to be wrong, but they take it on the chin and they don't, you know, they don't care about it. A lot of these people that are posting that are chartists, you know, they're trying to kind of validate their opinion and get that opinion validated by other people, and kind of trying to make themselves, you know, believe in their own bias for the most part. Like trading, having a bias in trading is fine, but marrying your bias and never breaking up with it is extremely dangerous. Like you have an example of NVIDIA, you know, I have an example of that same thing with Meta on Monday, right? Everybody was calling for a Meta breakout over 290. And I mean, I was, you know, potentially planning on it for a move over 290. That's what I planned, but the chart told me something completely different. So it's like, yeah, your technicals may say one thing, but, you know, be aware that anything can happen and be able to respond to price action instead of just, you know, looking at the chart and seeing a potential break. Like let the price action make the move for you and tell you that the move is actually going to happen. So yeah, I think that's the best way, just for those that do less, say less, you know, not get their opinion validated by everybody. The ones that don't talk shit to other traders, like the ones that are trying to start beef, like those are the ones that you want to completely avoid. And yeah, FinTwit's in a weird spot, but if you know, follow the right people, I think you can be successful.
100%. So let me just give a little point of view from my end and see if you agree. I am, you know, I'm still young. I don't have a great judge of character for people on what they say and all that good stuff, but I can identify something that I noticed with chartists versus traders. And this is something that you brought up initially in this interview. Now, when I see people on Twitter that are posting a combination of flow, RSI, MACD, and truth be told, like, excuse my language, but I don't even know what the fuck RSI and MACD is, and I've been trading for 4 years nonstop. Now, there's people that have RSI, MACD, flow, Elliott wave, all of these things in one chart to justify a play. That, for true traders, is known as indicator paralysis. If you have too many indicators, you can be blind of what the true move is, because now you're just adding on indicators to help your bias. Or two, you have so many indicators that are contradicting with each other that you just freeze up. Now, like you said, you only have your price action, volume, and VWAP. So you have your three indicators that you stick to. You like to keep it minimal. And I noticed that people who have that minimalistic approach to trading are the ones that are continuously doing better in the market, are the ones continuously proving their strategy through their profits. And the ones that are throwing up all these indicators, you just look at their play the next week and it's either consolidating or going the complete opposite direction. Now, do you agree with this, that there's an aspect of indicator paralysis with traders that have not yet cemented a full strategy or cemented a successful uptrend in their portfolio?
Yeah, 100%. Because with all of the indicators, it's very flashy and it looks good. And I think that's the best way to say that, is because for those that, are liking charts and like to look at charts, seeing all the indicators, it feels flashy, it feels good, it feels, but you know what the best thing is? Price action, because price is real time and every single indicator is a lagging indicator for the most part. And price tells the real story. And that's that. It's the most basic form of it, but simple is better in terms of trading. And I completely agree with what you just said, 100%.
Perfect. Now let's move on to the next subsection of this interview, next and potentially last here. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and you are more than welcome to share yours. Now, give me a little rundown of what goes on in your service so people that are viewing this interview can have a better understanding of what's in store, so they choose to sign up to your service. So if you want, you can go ahead and share your screen towards your Discord, or simply explain a play, explaining your entry, how you alerted to the team, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So let me do this. Share screen. Screen 3. Okay. All right, perfect. So yeah, so I have a Discord and a Twitter, but mainly I just keep things pretty mellow. The biggest thing is I do live stream trade Monday through Friday, so you'll be able to see, my charts in real time, everything in real time, me talk about it in real time. I also do a pre-market live stream, so at 6:10 every single morning on the dot. I'll hop on, run through the pre-market plans that I'll post, PDF files, and then, so we'll run through the pre-market plans every single morning, and then as soon as that market opens, we're live trading, and I give an insight of mainly what it is to do this every single day, full time. And like today, with the members, we had a long conversation about FOMO and resisting FOMO and not giving into it. And it was something that, we had a pretty good long talk about it. But for the most part, I mean, the people in my group, I love them. They're a great group of people, and everyone in here is trying to better themselves and trying to really get down trading. But my trade alerts come in through here, and they're also on Twitter. Twitter is the faster version, but I just copy and paste them. And then I have market commentary throughout the day for things that I'm looking at. And then we have a questions channel and then education channels as well. So pretty simple. The main thing is trading live with me Monday through Friday, every day, pre-market live streams. And yeah, started doing the live trading about a year ago now, and everyone's been loving it and got a lot of good feedback from it. And it gives me more, it gives me more of a chance to actually kind of personalize trading instead of just being some figure. It's, I hop on with my team every morning, and we kind of shoot the shit, but we also trade, and we all make money together. So it's great. I really do love the community that I have and everybody in it. Also within the community, if you do want to have one-to-one sessions with me, just me and you, that's also a thing, but that's included within the subscription as well. So yeah.
Perfect. And one more
Sure.
thing I want to add and highlight about your service is that you are actually one of the few that show, or they I forgot what the term is, but you essentially are backing up everything you're saying. For example, you say that the best way to learn from market exposure is going into after hours and analyzing your plays, or even getting prepared for the next day. And these are things that I notice you even show to the public. You always post your trade recaps with video onto your public as well. So just something that's really cool that I don't see, honestly, any other service doing. So just another proof of, being a real trader and the components that all come together to create a successful trading journey. So very cool there.
Cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the interview here. But again, Limitless, please give the folks a website or your Twitter where they can go and sign up for your service. Again, I do believe that Daniel has one of the best trading services out on FinTwit, and I do believe he is, from what I've seen, one of the only 5 real traders on Twitter. So please, Dan, give them your website, your Twitter, all that good stuff where they can reach you and be a part of your team.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. So the Twitter, the @ is, I can actually just pull it up here. It is Limitless T1. If I'm sharing my screen. Let's go here. Okay. So yeah, Limitless T1 is my main Twitter here. And then the website is just tradewithoutlimits.com. And you can find me there. You can DM me on Twitter. You can head to the website, get in contact with me there as well. But this is the best way to join the service, is giving me a follow on Twitter at Limitless T1.
Perfect. And I'll go ahead and link everything in the description of this video. Know that you can get and will get value out of following Dan on either both his private and his public. He puts out valuable information for everyone. Again, just further proof that this is a trader that wants you to succeed. So again, everything in the description. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And thank you, Daniel, for doing this interview. I'll let you have any closing remarks if you have any.
Cool. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on here. And the biggest thing for those that are watching this and just getting into trading, the biggest takeaways from it is give it time, less is more, and ultimately never quit. I think if you have those 3 things, then you'll find success in the coming years.
Well said. Thank you so much, Dan. Let's go ahead and stop the recording here.